Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. In my last video, I covered 3 horrific stories of mothers who attempted to murder or did murder their children. And in that video, I said I didn't know how many more sick, twisted nightmares we could take. And now, less than a day later, I have yet another sick, twisted nightmare to share with you out of Broome County, New York, where a couple had just had a beautiful little baby girl named Eleanor and should have been as happy as new parents can be. But that wasn't the case. According to the Broome County Sheriff's Department, there was a restraining order against baby Eleanor's father, Patrick Profrate, due to a long history of DV incidents between her father and mother. So baby Eleanor was not born into the best situation. And on June 26th of 2023, when she was just 3 weeks old, the situation she was born into turned deadly. Police said they responded to an emergency call shortly after 5 a.m. on State Route 41 in the town of Colesville, where they came across a horrific scene. They found little Eleanor and her mother shot with a crossbow. According to WBN G12 News, Eleanor's mother told police that there was an argument between herself and Eleanor's father, and he picked up a crossbow and shot at her with it. She said she was holding baby Eleanor when he did it, and Eleanor was shot through the chest. They said the bolt shot straight through baby Eleanor and struck her mother in the chest as well. Then, police said he removed the bolt from their bodies and tried to stop her mother from calling 911. When they arrived on scene, Profrate had fled, leaving his newborn baby to die. And after emergency personnel tried to save her, she was pronounced dead at the scene. Her mother was transported to the hospital for her injury, but I haven't been able to find any reports about how badly she was injured from the attack. Police said Profrate fled the scene in his truck, so they began both ground and drone searches looking for it. They found it and him, less than a mile away from their home, with his truck stuck in the mud in the woods. He was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, attempted murder in the second degree, and criminal contempt in the first degree for violating an order of protection. And little baby Eleanor is gone. Here is the press conference police held to give the details.
Joined at the podium this afternoon. To my immediate right by Under Sheriff Sam Davis, to my immediate left, Captain Ben Harding, to his left, Lieutenant Dan Schaefer. Sadly and unfortunately, we're here this afternoon so I can update the press corps as well as the community on a homicide investigation that is currently taking place in the town of Colesville in Broome County. This is one of the most heartbreaking and senseless crimes that has been committed in recent history. At approximately 5:14 this morning, the Office of the Sheriff was dispatched to 2208 State Route 41 in the town of Colesville for a 3-week-old infant, as well as a 31-year-old female who had been shot by a crossbow during a domestic incident. We have, since the investigation commenced, we have arrested one Patrick D. Profrate, 26 years old, of 2208 State Route 41 in the town of Colesville. I want to speak very quickly about the investigation and the quick actions of the members of this organization, as well as our counterparts in law enforcement. Very quickly after getting on the scene, members of this office administered first aid where they could to the mother, Megan, and very quickly realized that life-saving measures on the infant would be futile. And very shortly thereafter, as more members of law enforcement converged on the scene, very quickly a perimeter was set up. To my right on the screen is an aerial view of the residence, as well as an area on the bottom of the screen you'll see where Mr. Profrate was subsequently taken into custody. Within 1 hour's time from the team being deployed and the perimeter being set up, members of law enforcement were able to take Mr. Profreed into custody. And I want to, from the podium, thank my colleagues from the New York State Police, as well as Sheriff Ernie Cutting, Shenango County Sheriff's Office, who very quickly sent resources our way to help take Mr. Profreed into custody. Of course, in cases like this, when you're operating in a very rural setting, it complicates matters, as you can imagine. We're in the middle of the summer. The canopy is on pretty significantly, which makes it very difficult to find people from the air. So this had to be done from the ground. And as you can imagine, not knowing what was on the mind of Mr. Profreed outside of just committing a homicide, killing his own three-week-old daughter, it's a situation in which it's very difficult for the people who are operating on the ground, but nonetheless, they went to work very quickly and took him into custody. So I'm incredibly pleased with that. It's just a tragic case. It's a senseless case, and it's a reminder to all of us that are standing before you today that domestic violence is incredibly real. These are situations that so many people throughout our community go through on a day-to-day basis. This is one of several cases in the past few months in which people have lost their lives because of domestic violence. I cannot stress to the people of this community enough that there are human service organizations that exist in Broome County that are here to help people who are in troubled situations and relationships, here to help people get out of those situations and relationships. And if you don't want to go to one of those organizations, it's what we're here for. Pick up the phone and call 911. Do yourself a favor, take that initial step so we can help you. With that, I'll take some questions on the case.
I apologize if you said this already, but what was the relationship between the suspect and the mother, I guess?
Yeah, while they have separate last names, they were husband and wife. They were married, and the child in question is their child. Again, the Eleanor, we should stress her name, was 3 weeks old.
Might not know this, but has there been any, reports of suspicious activity in that area that could have maybe prompted what the suspect did, or no?
Look, I'm never going to question why another human being decides to do what they decide to do. I will tell you this, that there was a very long history of domestic violence between Mr. Profreed and Ms. Carey. I'll also point out the fact, because this seems to be a recurring issue, that there was a stay-away order in place. And again, I'm never gonna pass judgment on why one decides to do what they do, but I think there's a recurring trend here, right? And that's why from this podium I stress the importance of acknowledging domestic violence, acknowledging the fact that there are many people in this community and amongst us that are living in these very volatile situations. That's why I try from this podium to remind people that there are many people in this community that their desire is to help them get out of those situations, so we don't end up in a situation like we are today. So I think that's very important to stress.
Was there any indication that this was maybe like a pre-planned sort of attack, or is this something that had they been in contact prior to the incident?
Yeah, that's what I'll say, is that they were living together. They had just had a child together, and based on the investigation, I think that Mr. Profreed was dealing with some internal demons. He was not dealing with having a newborn child, the way in which one would expect a new mother or father to deal with that. Those situations, of course, for people who have children, of course, we acknowledge that a newborn can be stressful. Having a newborn child should be the greatest thing in life. Should not push you to commit homicide, and that's exactly what Mr. Profreed did. As far as I'm concerned, he is a repugnant human being. And I'm glad, as I stand here, I don't have to wonder or worry about where Mr. Profreed is. He's exactly where he belongs, within the confines of this correctional facility. And it's my deep desire, on Eleanor's behalf, that he never ever sees the light of day again. That is my deepest desire. Today we charge Mr. Profreed with one count of murder in the second degree, one count of attempted murder in the second degree, as well as criminal contempt in the first degree. He is currently awaiting to be arraigned in the Central Arraignment Park, which will happen at 8 p.m. tonight.
And lastly, just given that this is another severe incident that's happened regarding domestic violence in the area in recent, is this something that your administration kind of plans to focus on, or to take more measures to kind of prevent that?
Yeah, I can tell you in the coming weeks you'll hear from both the Office of the Sheriff and the Crime Victims Assistance Center, who is working on a project in which members of law enforcement, the men and women who are on the ground every single day dealing with an average domestic violence call, right? We're going to put some things in place, right, in which we are able to determine if these relationships or these situations raises a significant red flag or elevates the way we respond to those type of complaints, so we can take proactive measures to address those issues. It's something that the Crime Victims Assistance Center is spearheading. It's their project. However, we've agreed to work with them to launch a pilot program in this community to start addressing domestic violence calls in a little bit different way than we currently are doing, which of course we respond to many of them, but we want to be able to address those red flag issues as they present themselves, when they present themselves, so we can avoid situations like that. So in the coming weeks, you'll hear from the Crime Victims Assistance Center as well as the Office of the Sheriff.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Baby Eleanor lived for 3 weeks before her evil POS sperm donor decided his desire to attempt to take her mother from her was more important than loving and protecting them. So, he took her little life. I really, really hope that she felt her mother's love and the love of the rest of her family during her very short little life. And I pray her mother makes a full recovery. But even if she does, she'll never be whole again. She'll always have an Eleanor-sized hole in her heart that will never, ever heal. God bless them both. As always, thank you for listening. I really do appreciate you. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you on my next video.